popular and controversial dancehall artist Vybz Kartel, whose given name is Adeja Palmer, remains in police custody.
Vybz Kartel, the man didn't just have fans, he had a movement. People copied his look, talked like him, and followed his every move. But with all that influence came a whole lot of mess. His beef with Mavado, that wasn't just two artists throwing shade, it had the whole country choosing sides like it was a full-blown war.
This beef was a different beef. This wasn't a musical beef, this was an all-out war.
He knew exactly how to stay relevant, and whether people loved or hated him, they were always watching. But as much as he ruled the charts, trouble was never far behind. His songs were getting banned left and right, cops were always on his case, and controversy was basically his brand. And then came the case that changed everything. The one that took him from being untouchable to sitting behind bars. Accused of setting up a Kartel's world flipped overnight.
Forward. The popular and controversial dancehall artist Vybz Kartel, whose given name is Adeja Palmer, remains in police custody.
The trial was a circus. Messy evidence, sketchy investigations, and enough twists to make it feel more like a TV drama than real life. Some people were convinced he got what was coming. Others swore he was set up, but no one could deny that this was bigger than just one artist.
But no matter how harsh the prison conditions, he never gave up. Neither did his attorney, Isaac Buchanan, who waged fierce and focused legal battles.
Going from running the dancehall game to fighting for his freedom, that's not just a downfall, it's a whole saga. And it's nowhere near over.
Somebody else get ice, make TG not nice.
Before dancehall even knew what hit it, he was out here spitting lyrics that stuck like glue and beats that had the streets on lock. Way before he became a household name, he was already plotting his takeover. Back when he was just a teenager, he jumped in the game with a track hyping up plus-size women, rolling with the name Adi Banton as a nod to Buju Banton.
Adi Banton. I'm still Adi Banton. Buju Banton is my favorite dancehall artist. Right.
Not long after, he teamed up with two others under the name Vybz Kartel. But when that crew fell apart, he kept the title for himself. Even then, he wasn't playing, claiming to have already stacked up nearly 30 songs, including one clowning on guys getting played by their girls. His pen was relentless, and people started noticing. One of them was Bounty Killer, a heavyweight in the scene, who took him under his wing. From there, things only got louder, sharper, and impossible to ignore.
It's also a Jamaican thing. We love to rhyme. It's like every kid on a street corner in New York, wants to be a rapper. It's the same thing in Jamaica. You either want to run from the cops as well.
Kartel wasn't just making waves, he was running the whole ocean. By the time dancehall caught up, he was already everywhere, dropping bangers back to back and turning every speaker into his personal stage. But nothing got people talking more than that infamous face-off with Ninja Man at Sting. What started as a lyrical battle took a sharp left when Kartel and his crew turned it into something way less musical. Hands were thrown, the performance got cut short, and suddenly, the drama was louder than the music. His team tried to pin the blame elsewhere, but Kartel wasted no time setting things straight. Days later, he and Ninja Man shook hands, called it even, and kept it moving. Album after album, he kept fans locked in, dropping heaters under a UK label before deciding he didn't need anyone else's stamp of approval. He set up his own thing with producer Not Nice, calling the shots, and making sure his music stayed exactly how he wanted it. After parting ways with Bounty Killer's camp, he built his own crew, scooping up fresh talent straight from his stomping grounds. Popcorn, Tommy Lee, Black Rhino, and Ja Vinci all came up under his watch, turning Portmore Empire into a serious force. But he wasn't just thinking about music, he was making sure his name meant something beyond the studio. He linked up with an American businessman to roll out his own rum, a line of condoms, and even took over one of Jamaica's biggest dance hall spots, turning it into the place to be.
Fire. This one is mostly for the ladies.
The ladies, okay.
And this, anyone can have that. But trust me, I recommend the Fever and the
Their business relationship hit some bumps, but even when things got messy, they eventually found their way back to working together, proving that money and music always find a way to talk. Vybz wasn't just a hitmaker though, he was a walking contradiction, a lyrical mastermind shaping the sound of dancehall while constantly dodging trouble. His music wasn't just running Jamaica, it was blasting worldwide. Tracks about designer kicks, bedroom anthems, and summer bangers turned him into a global name. But the spotlight wasn't just on his talent.
Here we go. Summertime is here, you know.
Drama followed him like a shadow. The feuds were loud, the headlines were louder, and the legal troubles never seemed to stop. The same man dominating the charts was also caught up in a case that ended with a conviction, locking him away at the height of his reign. But we'll come back to that. Let's talk about the homophobic slurs.
Gliding. We're not gonna ban a Vybz Kartel song saying Ramping Shop, but you're gonna play a foreign song with a girl singing I kissed a girl and I.
Vybz Kartel was never a stranger to controversy, but back in the day, his MOBO Award nomination turned into a full-blown scandal. The issue? His past lyrics, which had already put him in hot water with LGBTQ+ activists. The MOBO organizers tried to smooth things over, asking Kartel and fellow dancehall star Elephant Man for a written apology. But when that didn't happen, they pulled the plug. Both artists got the boot from the Best Reggae category. That wasn't the end of it. Activists kept the pressure on, and the BBC took a stand, flat out refusing to air the award show unless MOBO took action. With no way out, the organizers dropped the two dancehall stars, making an example out of them. Kartel built his whole brand on shaking things up, so no one saw it coming when he switched gears. After years of being at the center of the drama, he backed the Reggae Compassionate Act, pushing for a shift in dancehall's approach to certain topics. For someone whose lyrics had sparked so much outrage, it was a plot twist no one expected. But the pushback didn't stop there. Kartel's music was already a magnet for debate, but Guyana took things up a notch. The country didn't just ban a song or two, they shut down his entire catalog. Officials claimed his lyrics were too explicit and didn't add anything positive to entertainment. Just like that, Kartel became the first artist to be officially barred from Guyana's airwaves. And word on the street, other dancehall stars might be next. No matter how many bans or boycotts came his way, Kartel's hold on dancehall never slipped. He kept the genre on its toes, kept people talking, and made it clear that no amount of backlash was strong enough to write him out of the story. Kartel and the Movado weren't just making hits, they had the entire government watching. Their feud wasn't just a lyrical showdown.
I don't know if it was a woman feud or somebody rapped something from somebody, because that was a serious one.
It split dancehall fans into two camps, Gaza and Gully, and things got so intense that it started spilling into real life. The tension got so out of hand that even the Prime Minister had to step in. It all kicked off when Kartel ditched the alliance, and suddenly it was open season. He and Movado turned the studio into a battlefield, dropping diss tracks left and right while the whole country watched. The drama got so messy that by early 2007, the police had to step in, both of them, to a press conference to publicly call it quits and tell fans to chill. But that peace treaty, yeah, it didn't last long.
The government is defending its decision to intervene in the dancehall rivalry between DJs Movado and Vybz Kartel, whose open contempt for each other has divided their fans in what is known as a Gaza Gully.
This beef was a different beef. This wasn't a musical beef, this was an all-out war.
By mid-2008, things heated up again, leading to a much-hyped lyrical face-off at Sting. Who actually won? That depended on who you asked, but one thing was obvious. This wasn't over. The back and forth didn't just stay in the music. By the next year, Gaza and Gully had turned into something bigger, pulling in Jamaican youth like full-on street crews. It got so intense that even schools weren't safe, with kids throwing hands over who they repped. With things getting out of control, Jamaican officials had to step in. Kartel and Mavado got called up to Jamaica House for a sit-down with the Prime Minister, who basically told them to shut it down before things got worse. Just hours earlier, they had already made a public show of peace, hitting the stage together at a concert linked to a well-known figure in Kingston's underworld. The government-backed truce wasn't just for show. By then, the Gaza Gully rivalry had already sparked full-on mob attacks in the city's toughest areas. Kartel and Mavado were all set to take their truce to the stage with a unity concert in Barbados, making it official for the world to see. But just when it seemed like things were cooling down, the whole thing got scrapped. The Barbadian Prime Minister shut it down, proving that even with a peace deal in place, the controversy surrounding them wasn't going anywhere.
The government thought it very important to have this meeting this morning based on the fact and the impact on the 4 ministries that were represented there.
The so-called truce might have wrapped things up on paper, but the whole Gaza Gully era never really faded.
We're coming back with...
It dug its roots deep into Jamaica's culture, shaping everything from music to politics. Just like the country's major political parties, these camps showed how easily people could be split into sides, no matter the reason. This wasn't just about dancehall. It was a mirror of the country's bigger struggles, a reminder that in Jamaica, loyalty had a way of outlasting logic. Kartel had people either riding for him or calling him out. There was no in-between. Everything he said or did sparked debates, whether he was shaking up old school traditions or just speaking on the reality he came from. His takes on politics and society kept the country talking, with some seeing him as a game changer and others blaming him for pushing the limits too far. His lyrics weren't just catchy, they were raw, painting an unfiltered picture of life in Jamaica. He talked about struggle, crime, and a system that felt stacked against people. For some, that made him real, a voice for what they lived every day. But not everyone was feeling it. The way he openly discussed topics that were still considered off limits, like oral clashed hard with the country's more traditional crowd. Some thought he was breaking barriers. Others felt he was just a reflection of the world he grew up in. Love him or hate him, his impact on Jamaican youth was undeniable. He wasn't just making hits. He was shaping slang, influencing fashion, and shifting mindsets. His presence in the culture was too big to ignore, proving that music, society, and personal responsibility were never as separate as people liked to think. Now let's talk about stint in the big house and why he was convicted.
Forward. The popular and controversial dancehall artist Vybz Kartel, whose given name is Adeja Palmer, remains in police custody.
Kartel's run at the top took a dark turn when he got caught up in a case that shook Jamaica. Cops arrested him after an associate, Clive Lizard Williams, went missing, allegedly over some stolen guns. Nobody ever turned up, but investigators claimed they had damning messages from Kartel himself, painting a gruesome picture of what went down. With his name this big, the case wasn't just another headline, it was a full-blown national spectacle. His fans saw him as the ultimate underdog, a man who climbed out of struggle and made it, no matter what the system threw at him. But not everyone was buying it. To his critics, he wasn't just a dancehall star, he was proof of everything wrong with the streets.
But in a move that could indicate that the police have other charges in mind, officers spent much of the day searching premises linked to the entertainer. Kirk Wright was in tow as investigators went from one location to
His trial dragged on for what felt like forever, making history as Jamaica's longest courtroom battle. When the verdict finally dropped, it wasn't pretty. He and 3 others, Sean Storm, Kahira Jones, and Andre St. John, got hit with guilty verdicts. Kartel took the hardest hit, locked away for life with decades to wait before even thinking about parole. The rest weren't far behind, each facing long stretches before they'd see freedom again. Kartel's lawyers weren't going down without a fight. They immediately pushed for an appeal, side-eyeing the judge's handling of the case. One of his attorneys didn't even bother hiding his doubts about how fair the whole thing was. As for Kartel, he never backed down from claiming he was innocent.
But no matter how harsh the prison conditions, he never gave up. Neither did his attorney, Isaac Buchanan, who waged fierce and focused legal battles.
Locked up or not, his hold on dancehall never loosened. If anything, his status only got bigger. He kept dropping tracks from behind bars, even managing to put out a 61-track album, allegedly recorded on a phone. One of his biggest projects blew up, with a standout track even hitting gold. Of course, the authorities weren't too happy about him making money while doing time. There was even talk of whether his earnings should go to the victim's family instead. He wasn't the only one keeping the family name alive. His sons, going by Little Vybz and Little Addy, were gearing up to drop their own track, a fresh take on an old school hit. Even with their dad behind bars, they weren't stepping out of the dancehall scene anytime soon. Kartel's lawyers weren't backing down.
Neither did his attorney, Isaac Buchanan, who waged fierce and focused legal battles, eventually convincing the highest courts in Jamaica and the UK to throw out the verdict and order his release.
They took the fight all the way to the UK, arguing that the trial was a mess from the jump. One juror was even accused of trying to buy a not guilty verdict with stacks of cash, but somehow still got to stay on the case. The UK court threw out the case, calling the whole thing shady because of the juror drama. The news hit Jamaica like a lightning bolt. Some cheered, calling it long overdue payback, while others swore it was just a technicality, letting him slip through the cracks. Back in Jamaica, the courts had to figure out their next move. With so much time gone and Kartel's health on the decline, they decided it wasn't worth dragging things out. By mid-year, they shut the case down, and just like that, he walked free.
Now to a Fox 5 exclusive where after 13 years behind bars, dancehall DJ Vybz Kartel is freed from prison and his murder conviction.
Stepping out after more than a decade locked away, Kartel was finally free, but he wasn't the same man who went in. Pushing 50 and battling Graves' disease, the years had taken their toll. His focus had shifted. Faith, family, and getting his body right were the only things that mattered now. Life on the outside hit fast. The money came rolling in. But time? That was gone forever. His kids weren't kids anymore. They were parents now. 13 years inside, and he walked out to find himself a grandfather.
It was a moment skeptics and haters thought would never come. Exonerated dancehall music superstar Vybz Kartel released from prison. Now he's free and free to...
Kartel, real name Adidja Palmer, came up in Waterford, a rough inner city spot in St. Catherine. His dad, an electrician, drilled work ethic into him early and pushed for a solid education. He even landed a spot at Calabar High, a school known for churning out scholars. But books weren't holding his attention. Music was.
Adi Banton. I'm still Adi Banton. Buju Banton is my favorite dancehall artist. Right.
Kingston had all the studios, and skipping class meant rubbing shoulders with legends, Ninja Man, Shaba, Buju. He was seeing them up close, and nothing else mattered. By 9th grade, the school had enough. Getting kicked out didn't sting. He already knew exactly where he was headed. Bounty Killer saw the potential and took him under his wing, flipping Kartel from a hungry newcomer to an international name. Suddenly, he was in rooms with Jay-Z and Pharrell, making moves way beyond dancehall. But even with all that success, he looked back and wished he had listened when his parents pushed for him to stay in school. They even put him in a private tutorial college to keep him on track. He left with some exam passes but no diploma. His mother, the rock of the family, always tried to instill certain values. He just hadn't been ready to hear them back then. Now, he was all about one thing: education. He had been saying it even before he got locked up. School first, no matter what. Get those grades, avoid the wrong crowd, and forget the gangster life. None of it was worth it. Prison messed with his mind in ways that didn't just disappear overnight. Even with his freedom, his body was still on lockdown mode. Waking up before sunrise, bracing for guards to storm in, even slipping up and telling his son he was heading back to his cell instead of his room. Some habits were hard to shake. The sound of keys rattling still haunted him. Freedom gave him a whole new mission. He wanted to uplift, guide, and pour into the next generation, starting with his own sons and extending to the rising stars of dancehall. Locked up for years, he had nothing but time to listen, and he was convinced Jamaica had some serious talent just waiting to blow. He believed the big players in music, labels from the US, Canada, and the UK, were missing out. He had heard the future through prison walls, and he knew the young artists had what it took. The industry just needed to wake up and put some real money behind them. As for his own comeback, a massive homecoming concert in Kingston, it wasn't just an event. It was History in the making. Everybody was pulling up for this one. Whether people loved him or couldn't stand him, Vybz Kartel had dancehall in a chokehold. The influence, the mess, the drama, none of it disappeared just because he wasn't out in the streets. His music still blasted from every speaker, his style still had people copying, and his name. Still the most debated topic in the genre. Whether he was a genius or just really good at stirring the pot, one thing was obvious. Nobody did it like Kartel. If messy music history and deep dives are your thing, tap that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's keep it going. Drop a comment. Was Kartel set up, or did he just play himself? Let's get into it.